last night I had a difficult conversation with someone, and then I kind of like pulled back out of the conversation. And then this morning got up and was reflecting a little bit on it, when I was running. And, I just think, how can I think about that better? How can I reflect on it? What can I learn about it? So what did I do well with that idea? Not a lot, probably. And then what could I do differently is maybe the question was good, the intention was good. Maybe the delivery is how I could have done it differently, and how I can actually reflect on myself as a learning on how I approach these things sometimes as well. So, then I've just got to think about for myself and how I am. So it was a reflection of where we get things wrong, Tony. There's no perfection in what we do. We've got to constantly look at this mind hack. And even in the conversation I had with someone yesterday, they were struggling with themselves, but it's a thing that we don't realize, that this mental strength or mental muscle or mental hack that we are doing is a daily thing for us. It's daily. It's not just Sunday mindset session. This is daily.
Yeah, it's about because our mind has a negative bias. Not our fault. It's how we're raised. It's part of being a human. It's got a negative bias, and has a negative bias for a reason. And the negative bias is to keep us safe, to survive. And it's always on the lookout for things that are dangerous, right? And so it's all around recognizing, well, that's the way that it's going to go if you let it just go. If you let your mind just do its thing, then you're going to sit down, eat Cheetos and watch Netflix, and that's all you'll do, right? As opposed to pushing yourself, challenging yourself, stretching, growing, etc. Always reflecting. So you've had a conversation and you reflected, and always ask what went well. And go, okay, well, those things went well. Cool. You know what? I'd do that differently. And maybe, just listening to that, it might be that next time you may show more empathy. I don't know. Again, I wasn't involved in the conversation. I've got no idea, who you were talking to, right? But it might be that, it could be a show empathy, or it could be ask better questions, or more open questions, or be a better listener, or do less talking, or whatever it might be, right? And then it's about learn from that. Like, life is just one big lesson, one big learning, and we're all, as long as...
Well, that's point number 3, Tony. What are we learning, and
look
how
at me go.
how do we get better for ourselves?
Well, how we get better is through, and we talk about it every week, and it's such a simple thing to do, yet people don't do it. And how do we get better? Through self-awareness, right? But sometimes we struggle with self-awareness, and that's why we have people around us, whether it be friends, family, coaches, associates, whatever it might be, employees, colleagues, whoever, always asking for feedback. Again, the meaning of feedback, right? So this thing today is all about meaning. Excuse me. Meaning of feedback. Some people don't want feedback because they're worried that someone's going to give them something negative or criticize them. Whereas for me, I look at it very differently, and it's like, well, no, I want the feedback. The good, the bad, the ugly, the shit. I want the feedback. Doesn't mean that I have to agree with it, but I want it. And I want it. And then I want to decipher for myself. And it's like, okay, well, why would that person say that? Okay. Right. And so it's all about, I want that sort of stuff, because it's about challenging ourselves to be better. Always be better. Always be better today than you were yesterday. And even if you're better by this much, right, always be better. And so that's what it's about. It's about asking yourself those 2 magical questions.
I guess, in reflecting about that a little bit further in the difficult conversation I had yesterday, is that whole thing about my idea and maybe being patient in the conversation.
Yeah.
So having some patience in the conversation could lead to a better conversation.
Empathy.
So this is
well.
The things that we are reflecting on for ourselves, that I'm reflecting on personally. And I guess there's things, Tony, that come up for you that I guess that you would be reflecting on how you could do things better.
All the time, gazillion times a day, right? Absolutely. So there's plenty of things that I want to be doing differently all the time. And so it's about constantly reflecting, and how do I become the best version of myself? How do I be the best?
I guess in certain degrees, like we are going through these conversations on Sunday, and we're effectively coaching each other through different ideas and thoughts. whether we're actually saying them for ourselves, or we're basically then, Tony might say something around an idea. I think about a story or an occurrence. It allows me then to speak up about my experience. Then it allows me then to reflect about my own words or what's actually coming up inside. So this is where it can actually help you having conversations with people that are bringing out these, bite-sized chunks of gold that comes through about the meaning or the approach. And hopefully you're in a position to have discussions with people that are of a higher level of thinking, feeling when it comes to these things. And if you're not, then this is why I guess that you're on the Sunday Mindset session, right?
Yeah, and ask questions. That's one of the things that both Luke and I love the ad lib nature of this. And so, whilst there is an element of structure, more so because Luke forces that to happen. But ask.
You make it sound like a bad thing.
But ask. No, it's important. No, no. So, but it's more around. We want you guys and girls to ask questions of us because
what's really interesting is that you are more of a structured person than I am. So that actually is a really good reflection. Maybe this is the whole thing about you being less structured in an approach when you're more structured in other things. So, and then for me, I'm sort of erratic in my approach, but this is a point where I actually find a bit of structure, find a bit of consistency, and then the formula then helps us both, remain in a structured sense. Well, to a certain degree, but
I agree. I agree. Well, it's like I was having this conversation with somebody the other day. It's like chefs who go home, they're not very good cooks, or the painter whose house is left unpainted. So for me, I see this on a Sunday. I don't see this as work. I see this as a passion, as a me giving up of my time. Obviously, there's things that I talk about in a work capacity, but I take a very relaxed approach to this each and every Sunday. And
that's where the goal comes, right? When you are a little bit relaxed in your approach, and you don't realize what does come up for you in these circumstances when you are. I think you've talked about that. Is it the magic carpet? I actually spoke about that yesterday with someone.
Yeah, magic spot. Yeah, correct. It's just which was just that piece of carpet. And it's like, gosh, what a simple exercise. Grab a bit of carpet, or if you grab a blanket if you haven't got carpet and go and just sit in a park. That whole exercise was you were in the bush and there was no one around you, but you can do that everywhere. Obviously, not in a day like today. It's dreadful weather here in Queensland today, but go grab a blanket and go to your park and sit in the middle of your park and just be with your thoughts. Because what happens is when we're at home, we grab our phone, we've got the telly on, we've got the Spotify's on in the background, we've got all these things going on and we're not sitting there. And so it's when we reflect, and again, go back to self-awareness, when we reflect, then we're able to really start to get in tune with what's going well and what can we be doing differently.
I actually thought about a topic for next week.
Yep. What is it?
How do you respond to those tough questions from family and friends?
Do you want me to grab my book again?
Yeah, exactly. Pretty much insane. But I think this is what powerful. It made me think about me being up in Queensland, right? There's a lot. The first question is around when you're coming home, or like obviously, my mother was a big advocate of that question. But it's how we actually answer those questions, which is really powerful for ourselves. What are we actually telling ourselves by answering that questions? Are we telling a lie? Are we telling what someone wants to hear? Are we telling it for ourselves? And if we reflect on ourselves, what we're saying out loud, and this is, what the meaning is behind it, how are we going to respond with our subconscious to our next move, our next action? So it is often how we respond to that is going to then set us up for the next thing we do.
Of course, and so go back to the question of, when you're going home. And I know that I used to stir you up whenever your mum would come on, she'd come on early in the Sunday Mindset session. I'd see her name and that'd trigger, when are you going home, mate? Just a bit of banter with you. But you're exactly right, because for the majority of people, how they would answer that is they would answer it in a way that they believe others want to hear it. right? As opposed to what's the truth. And this is the whole vulnerability side of things. This is about being truthful to yourself, self-awareness again. So are you putting up a mask? Are you? I'm not saying you, but I'm saying ask people who are watching. Do you have a mask up? Do you conform to others? Do you say things because you believe that's what they want to hear?
What do you reckon about me, Tony? Do I conform?
the opposite of, right? But good for you. And I mean, again, you're leading by example when, obviously your mum, she would want her son at home, and every mother, would want that. And I get all that, right? But it's about you put yourself in a privileged position where you're able to have the flexibility, where you're able to be in a different state for, several months of the year, and good for you. And it was good for your business. It was good for connections, good for relationships. It helped you look at things very, very differently. I'm sure you
reflect.
Yeah, I'm sure you spend a lot.
Peter Trong just said, going to do more self-reflection, which is really good, Peter. That it does. It gives you time alone to reflect. Now, I think, this is probably another topic that you could talk about, how loneliness or being alone can be positive and negative.
Yeah, but again, the meaning.
Yeah.
Right? So the meaning is, so some people who'll be alone, they will be shit scared to be alone, right? They don't want to be alone because they're worried what might come up for themselves, right?
Mm-hmm.
Whereas other people will say, no, I want to be alone because I want to be able to sit, think, collect my thoughts, grab a magic spot, go and sit in the park, et cetera, et cetera. I want to be able to be by myself. I don't want the distraction, right? And so it's meaning, everything. If you have a particular feeling about something, or there's some anxiety or fear or whatever, what's your meaning? Go back. Like if you got nothing else out of this this hour, when you feel your heart racing, your breath getting shorter, perhaps you're picking up whatever it might be, your sweatiness under your arms, what's the meaning that you're placing on that thing? Why are you feeling that way? That's the opportunity, because someone else can have that same experience and they can just thoroughly enjoy it and they can love it. So you've got fear, love, right? And so it's the meaning that we're placing on things. That's what it all.
Absolutely. Ken says, after a big day yesterday, now today starts over. Yesterday has gone. Forget about that and look at what you can do or will do today. Jeezy's coming up with some goal.
Which is beautiful, right? But again, there'll be other people who'll think about yesterday, and they'll think about Friday, and they'll think about the missed opportunity, and I looked like a dickhead, and I made that mistake, and my boss got angry at me, and blah, 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 and on and on and on it goes. And now it's like, I actually don't want to get out of bed today because I've put all this weight on my shoulders, because I'm reflecting on all these things that have gone by, as opposed to going, well, whenever something happens, it's like, well, can I take a lesson from that? Can I take a lesson from that? Like look back for three reasons. Take a lesson. Take the lesson, great, good, okay, and move on. The second is, enjoy happy times. Like there's so many happy memories that we have. And, I went through it recently with my, looking at some of the photos of my young fellow, when he was back in, grade 1 and 2, and just the sheer joy in his face and the joy that we had as a family. So enjoy those moments. And the third reason that you look back is to see how far you've come, is to go, you know what? This year, like let's talk about 2020. Like 2020 has been a tough year, and certainly around March and April, the level of anxiety in this country generally was through the roof. Right? Look at our toilet paper purchasing. So it was through the roof. But now let's look about 8 months on, and I'm not downplaying the severity of. There have been people who've passed away, and that's incredibly sad. There have been people who've got incredibly sick, and that's incredibly sad. There have been people who have lost jobs, and that's incredibly sad. But from those people who've lost jobs, how many stories have you heard where someone said, you know what, that was actually a good thing, because that got me to stop and think about, was I really happy doing that job? Because otherwise I was just going through the motions. I was in a comfort zone, right? And there's so many stories like that. So yes, there's plenty of stories where it's been, that job devastated me and I've had that job for 10 years and blah, blah, blah. But there's other people who said, I'm really glad. Now, maybe not initially, maybe the initial shock of, holy shit, what are we going to do now? How am I going to pay for all this? Versus then they stopped. They thought about it. They thought, you know what, actually, maybe this is a sign. Maybe I can learn something from this. Maybe I can go and retrain myself. Go, you know what, I've actually really wanted to start a candle business, and now I'm going to go and make candles. I'm making things up. But you know what I mean? It's like that's been, so for some people, the COVID-19 has been disastrous because of the meaning they've placed on it. And for other people, it's been a really positive experience where they've been able to review where they're at, change things, set themselves up for success, and they're going to rebound and have an amazing, balance of 2020, 2021 and beyond.
Okay, so the idea today, guys, while we wrap it up now, is about changing the meaning for yourself and changing the approach for yourself. Hopefully you've reflected on some of the things that we've been talking about, whether they be the stories and different thoughts around how we're going to do it. So hopefully we can love and learn through this rather than the fears, right, Tony?
Oh, it's always about learning, and so the little challenge is I want to be slightly better today than I was yesterday, and tomorrow I want to be slightly better tomorrow than I am today. And if you take that approach, and when I say better, I'm talking about like that much better, so don't try and go and boil the ocean and do, a gazillion things and end up doing none of them. Just do one thing. Do one thing. It's such a simple thing. And in fact, it's funny, we talk right at the start about, social media and whatnot. I actually saw a post from me, from my team's done it today. I didn't realize it was coming, but it's called Do One Thing. So that was a video I did years ago. And I still hold that message true today. So just do one thing, just whatever. Do you know what I mean? It's like, just do one thing and that's it. And be happy with the fact that you did one, because one is called progress.
I love how our wrap-ups take about 5 minutes. But guys, we're going to wrap it up for today. I love and leave you for it. Hopefully you enjoyed the Sunday Mindset session. Come back next Sunday where we do it all again.
Do it all again.
At this station. All right. See you soon, guys. Bye.